I'm here to introduce you to the IP Telephony Cookbook project. It's a project funded by Terena and by other NRNs. And I would like to show you what are the motivation and what are the expectation beyond this project. The motivation are because Terena started an investigation in IP telephony in September 2001, which is almost 2 years ago now. But the first output were about the suggestions were made to coordinate the creation of a cookbook with a recommendation, basically, for setting up IP telephony solution at campus and university levels. These suggestions produced a second output, 2 meetings organized by Terena itself in March 2002 and at a workshop at Terena premises in Amsterdam, and in June a meeting at the previous Terena networking conference. Those meetings were about to give startup to this project and to try to identify a couple of people that could carry out this project in order to fulfill some objectives. But I can tell you, for example, what are the objectives of this project, which I can tell you is already started now, and it started on the 1st of April. And the objectives of the project are basically to provide overview, information, guidelines about a great variety of problems, starting from the basic of IP telephony. We will talk about in the cookbook, of course, about protocols, basic, advanced services, value-added services, about technologies, trends for the near future, how to build an IP telephony infrastructure. We want to put in the cookbook some practical information to help NRNs, to help university on how to build IP telephony infrastructure and how to interoperate between equipments. And we don't want to rule out the regulatory and legal aspects of adopting VoIP issues, VoIP infrastructure, and then we want to put in the cookbook some information about IP telephony projects in the past, present, and future. Sorry. Okay, just to give you a short overview of what is the structure we already agreed of the IP telephony cookbook, I will show you, going through the chapters, basically some examples of what you can get if you are going to read this cookbook. Okay, of course, there is the introduction. I won't want to bother with the introduction stuff and so on. And the very first interesting chapter is the technology background, where you can retrieve information about protocols, components, and all you need to know in order to run IP telephony stuff. Then we come to the interesting thing. We have chosen to put some information about the IP telephony scenarios you may want to adopt when you want to provide an IP telephony services. So, for example, I just give you some example of what you can find. We are just debating and discussing the things to put in the cookbook. The table of contents are already quite there, but we are still trying to identify some hot points to put in there. And of course, you can have some telephony scenarios. I put here, for example, along the least cost routing scenarios for IP telephony, which is maybe not the most interesting one. Maybe you may want to have information and guidelines how to integrate your basic legacy PBX with all the IP stuff you may want to buy or you may want to acquire, and how to make them interworking, because we think this is the basic process you have to do in order to go through a all IP network. And moreover, we are going to show you and to give the guidelines for how to integrate voice over IP and video conferencing. Here I just report some stuff, some soft phones, some hard phones, and some video conferencing stuff in order to make you understand that what we want to achieve, giving you guidelines in this project, is to have a seamless interconnection, a point-to-point conferencing, which now may be related only to the use of a certain equipment. Maybe you can choose a Polycom station or a Tandberg station, and you really use them, but maybe they don't interoperate with NetMeeting, or we have found some open issues in the TNC2003 software, and maybe we can just report on that and give you tips on how to set those scenarios. Then the chapter 4 is related to setting up basic services, and of course, when setting up basic services, we will talk about H323 services, of course, with gatekeepers and soft phones, hard phones, but also about we will talk about SIP services. And as the most advanced example of basic services, we can report something about H323 SIP gateway in order to make those two signaling protocols interoperate. Going deeper, we will talk about in the cookbook about advanced services, but advanced services, as you may imagine, still remaining in a telephony-centric view of the world. So we will talk about supplementary services. As you know, most of you may know, there are supplementary services standardized in the ITUT working study group regarding call transfer, diversion, deflection, all the basic services that you are used to use on a normal telephony network, that maybe you are likely to have also in an IP telephony world. And then we will address also a more complete way of doing gatewaying between H323 SIP and on the other side PSTN and ISDN, in order to give you a standard roadmap to achieve a seamless transition to real very value-added services, which are the main topic of adopting an IP telephony, because otherwise you can remain to a normal telephony. And as regards as value-added services, I've reported here a web interface which may give you advice of what we want to show. We want to have voice data integration report on web-based feature that you can achieve with IP telephony. We want, for example, a simple click-to-dial interface where you can show the presence of the people over there, and you can maybe it's not clearly seen, but you have indication of the busy of the person, if the person is busy, if reachable only by email, all those integration that may give you a real value-added services. And we can, in the project, we have competencies for reporting for all those features and for giving, we hope, an help in setting up those things. And as regards the other chapters, we will talk about global telephony integration. Maybe in the previous session you have heard Egon talking about the world gatekeeper hierarchy. We think that this is just the very basic step towards a more decentralized architecture, where you don't have, as Egon said, you don't want to have numbering plans. You want to have a distributed architecture with, let's say, enum or SRV protocols that may lead you to call all the whole world without knowing the destination you are calling, and like you look for a registry in a server, but in a distributed way. Then the very last chapters are related to regulatory issues in VoIP and of VoIP in Europe and other countries. If there are licensing and unbundling issues, providers issues beyond those features, and we have a lawyer in the project that are taking care of building this chapter. And as regards the annex we want to provide to the community, we will talk about the projects that are currently running in Europe, all around the NRNs, all around the universities, in order to give you advice what's the work going on in Europe about these topics. And then, last but not least, we will give some. We will put our expertise in the last annex, where you can find information about hardware and software related to IP telephony. So what protocols are supported by the various vendors, which degrees of interoperability they have, which bugs they have, because of course they have bugs. We have found, for example, during our teleconferences that Red Vision Gatekeeper is not so robust as you may think, because a simple application coming from Open H323 may crash it. And we will report on all the stuff we have tested, we have under test, and we can talk about them. Okay, just to go in just fast. The first release of the first deliverable regards the first 3 chapters, and it will be released in August. Then there are incremental release for setting up services in November, the last chapter in February, and all the cookbook will be ready in March. Okay, we will provide HTML, PDF format of the contents, and as soon as the information are ready to be published, we will put on the website, as Terena decided to do. Okay, the partners, there are 3 partners responsible for the results of the cookbook: University of Pisa, University of Bremen TZI, and Focus in Berlin. Then a number of contributors who are volunteering, providing input to the cookbook, that are Chesnet, Carl Frances Unigraz, GRNet, and SurfNet. And the funding of the project, which is the most important thing, was provided by Terena, by other NRNs. Of course, there is a shortage of funding, as all in this time. But if you want to help us provide some more funding, so you have just to contact Valentino by mail.
You're sitting over there. If you want to see him with your checkbook, this is fine.
So concluding, why this cookbook should be useful, because you may ask yourself, if you need a technology background, maybe all of you don't need it, but we just put it in order to give a startup, to give a background. Then it will provide guidelines and information at any knowledge level. The more you are expertise, the more in deep you can go reading the cookbook. Then it will provide the trends in the near future, we hope so. Then we will give full knowledge of experiences in Europe, and avoid you to run doing the same errors once and once again, in order because you can find the error listed in the IP telephony cookbook and avoid to do that. And so we think that students need it, network administrators need it, and researchers need it. And I think that's all. If you want to have a look of what we are doing, those are the links you have to follow. There is the web page and the mailing list, and all the information you will find over there, or just contact myself or something, and we will give you what you like.
Thank you. I have to say, I'm really waiting to get my hands on a copy of this. This sounds really good. So it's going to be delivered on time, yeah?
Okay.
I think we've got time for one question from the floor, if there's anybody has a question. In that case, thank you very much. Can we thank the speaker for an excellent presentation?